I'm going to finish up that decade, and then we'll move on to making the Our Father knot. There's my decade, all 10. It may look like a silly little trick, but I always go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Makes it a lot easier to count. And I suggest that you count on a regular basis too. It's always a shame whenever someone sends us a beautiful, beautiful rosary and then we discover there's only 9 knots in a decade. So now for the Our Father, you see it's the same process. I just wrapped it around my finger, but I did it 5 times instead of 3. I made the X, and then I wrapped it around my finger 5 times. It's almost the exact same process, except there's 2 more loops to make it a little bit bigger for the Our Father. Then you pull the string, same as before, through the back, and pull the twine through all 5 loops this time, since you're making an Our Father knot. Pull all the string through. I got it a little tangled up there. And that'll happen, but then just keep pulling it through, and you have the 5 loops. Now watch. Same process, slowly pulling on that twine underneath while my right thumb and index finger is pushing it into place. With my left index finger and thumb, I guide it to make sure that you don't want those loops to get tangled up. See how they're always staying aligned? That's because I keep guiding it with my left index finger and thumb. Your left index finger and thumb, when you're tightening a knot, is pretty much just to guide it and make sure that the knots don't get tangled up. You don't want those loops of your knot to interlace. You always want them to stay nice and parallel to each other, and you'll have a nice clean knot. If they start getting tangled up, you might want to get into the practice of just going ahead and undoing your knot and remaking it. Your rosaries will look a lot cleaner, and your knots will be able to tighten a lot nicer. Now I'm left some space from the first decade to the Our Father, and then a little bit more space from the Our Father to the next decade. And I made the first Hail Mary for the next decade, and I'm going to go ahead and finish that off. You make 3 decades in one direction, and then 2 in the other, as you'll see here. So now, there's my decade, an Our Father, another decade, an Our Father, another decade, and no Our Father on that point. Now you're going to flip your twine over, and you're going to go back to your very first knot that you made. But first, let's look at a trick here. We're going to line up 2 decades next to each other. And this is a way that you can make sure that your knots will always be in alignment and your rosary will have nice even spacing. Right there, the top one is a little bit shorter than the bottom. So what you can do is kind of grab it, pull it, and you can still separate the knots a little bit, even though you tightened them really well before. So now they're nice and aligned. And we'll check 2 other decades, line them up next to each other. And those look pretty good also, but I'll give it a slight tug to even it off more. And that's pretty good. So now that we've checked our decades, now we flip it over. And that's your very first knot right there. That's the first one you made when you folded the twine in the middle. And now we're going in the other direction. See how I'm holding the twine with the knots in my hand now? I've wrapped the twine around my finger 5 times for the Our Father knot. And I come in from the back, just as before. 3 loops around your finger for a Hail Mary, 5 loops around your finger for an Our Father. You see how my left hand is kind of helping to keep those aligned. I'm not pinching it, I'm not twisting or pulling on it, just very gently I kind of keep pushing those little loops back into place while my right hand continues to pull the twine and tighten. When I get it in place, I grab onto it nice and tight, pull with the right hand while I'm pinching that knot tight with my left hand. And look, see how they're nice and lined up? Looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my other 2 decades in that direction. And there it is. Isn't that amazing how I did those last 2 decades so quickly? You can pause the tape at this point and work on the rest of your rosary. And in a moment, after we check our alignment all the way around, we're going to make our centerpiece knot. going through, and they all seem to be pretty lined up. I'll give them a couple tugs. Make sure everything is staying exactly where I want it to be. Looks pretty good. Maybe a little tug down there and we're good to go. Okay, now here's how you make your centerpiece knot. You want to take your first Hail Mary knot and your last Hail Mary knot and put them next to each other. You're going to make an X around your finger, but using both pieces of twine, both ends of twine. Go around your finger just twice this time, but you're going around twice with both pieces of twine. And now you'll pull both pieces of twine through that loop. Pull them both through the back, just as you did with the Hail Marys and all the Our Fathers. This is a slightly trickier one, but if you keep your loops aligned and keep those two pieces of twine that you just ran through aligned, see how they're all nice and lined up to each other? If you do it nice and slow, you'll have a nice clean centerpiece knot at the end. Now I have it in place. Now the trick to tightening it here is you hold the knot and you pull first one piece of twine, and then you grab the other piece of twine and you pull that one too. And that will stay nice and in place. Now you want to find the longer of your two leftover pieces of twine. Always use the longer piece. Pull that shorter piece and hold that into the palm of your hand with all your other knots. And then make an Our Father knot around your finger. Just as before, 5 loops around your finger. Pull the twine in through the back. Take your time in tightening it up. You hold on to it with your right hand as you pull with your, you hold on with your left hand while you pull with your right to tighten it. Leave a little bit of space, and now you're going to make your 3 Hail Marys at the beginning of your rosary. 3 loops around your finger, and come in through the back. Same movement over and over again. One, two, three. Make the X. 1, 2, 3 towards the palm of your hand, and then you take that twine and you run it in through the back and out. Just like that. And now we have all 3 of our Hail Marys there, and we're going to make that Our Father knot with the crucifix. This is the most difficult knot, but you can do it. Here's what you do. You make that X, then you do the 5 loops just like a regular Our Father.